Good morning. This is going to be my part 2 of my little tactical tutorial about how I approach a table at a tournament. And I've already talked about my opponent's list, and I've talked a little bit about the terrain. While I'm looking over those things with my opponent, at the back of my mind I'm also thinking about the mission. Now, typically, before I go to a tournament, I'll read through the mission pack and I'll make a plan for each mission. Not depending on my opponent's list, which of course is a factor in how you play a mission, but and your opponent himself definitely also, his choices and who he is and how good he is definitely also a factor. But just based on my own list and what my typical my movements, my tactical choices typically are, I'll make a plan for each mission. Now, when I approach the table, that plan, I will have it by me. I'll maybe look at it. I will not necessarily follow it 100%. That plan is just there to help me, to help my decision making, to help inform me about what it is that I think I should want to do. A car coming up behind me. So not necessarily like the be-all and end-all of how to play that mission. Instead, I'll have 4 questions in my mind. Where do I want to deploy? Which side do I want? But more importantly than that, which side do I think my opponent wants? Where would be the most beneficial to him? Because sometimes when you choose the side that's best for you, you're also handing over the side that's best for him. And I think that is even more important than getting the side that you want, is denying the opponent the side that he wants. That is at least how it typically works out for me, because maybe it's because of the lists that I play, just the composition of my units and how I normally play them. But at least for me, it's often better just to take away the opponent's ability to fire his multi-rocket launcher at houses in your deployment zone or whatever, than to actually have a deployment zone where you have loads of cover. What if? Right. So I'll typically think about, where do I want to go? Where does the opponent want to go? And if there's a contradiction there, I will try to deny my opponent his optimal placement for this mission, right? Because always trying to remember what the mission is about. For kill points missions, I'll typically try and hit my opponent in one half of his army. So I'll try to make a concentration of force. It's an old axiom of Napoleon Bonaparte, right, where he said that you need to build up your forces at one point, a critical point, and then unleash them on the enemy where you are where you have superior numbers, and then push through. So that is what I try to do on the tabletop as well. It works quite well, I can tell you. Unless you're facing a gun-line army, then you might get shot to pieces. But then I think about, how is it that my opponent is going to try and win? What is it that he's going to try to do? And how can I counter that? How do I want to win? Those questions need to be in your mind as well. Because if you deploy in a way where you can't actually meet your win conditions, then your deployment is no good. So you need to think about, like what I talked about with my deployment, with my infantry and armor, right? You need to think about how am I going to push up to where I need to win. Typically, you'll need to advance to win a game, right? So how am I going to do that? Where is that I'm going to end up, and can I actually reach those places? So it's no good having very cheap, inexperienced shirker infantry if you're going to have to foot slog across the whole table. That typically won't work out well. If you're playing sectors and you deploy static stuff inside your deployment zone, you're going to need to figure out what to do with that stuff, because it won't be able to move out of your deployment zone. And you need it to move out to be of any value, right? So all of that running through my mind as well. And I try to implement that. I try to make it count for where do I want to be? Where does my opponent want to be? Those choices that are made early game and in deployment phase, that is where I try to make these questions count. So that is the turn 0. And when we started training for the WTC here in the Danish team, we have a specific training method for this turn 0. And it goes something like this. We call it turn 0 training, basically, right? We're not good at names. Anyways, the idea is that the trainer, typically that would be the captain, me in that case, will find an image of a table. I will typically just look through the Facebook pages, find the latest tournaments that's been held, see if I can find any pictures of the tables, then pick one. I find a picture of a table, and I find an opponent's list. It could be my own, or it could be any one of those lists posted in competitive forums, or maybe some of the lists that were at the tournament that I'm actually stealing the table from. I'll find that, and then I'll roll up a mission, and then post it to my teammate that needs the training, saying, right, this is the table, you're playing this mission, and this is the opponent's list. What do you want to do? Typically, I'll also give them the choices in the first, like the choice of deployment zone. Anything else that needs to be rolled for, I'll give them the choice to be attacker, defender, that sort of thing, because it's all about thinking about the choices that's important here. It's not necessarily winning this game, because it's not going to happen, the game. It's just making the plan for where do you want to deploy and where do you want your troops to go. Now, this is extremely important, and I think it's one of the reasons why people in the Danish WTC game, TC team, is getting better and better. We see this in tournaments here in Denmark. They're really moving up very, very quickly in skill level. And I think it's because they have a plan for every single game. They come to the table and they've been trained at how to make that plan very, very quickly, and how to make the right choices so they don't make those mistakes that other players may make at some times. They don't have games where they don't know how they're going to win this game, typically. When they do, they lose the game, right? So, and that is because of turn 0 training. So, turn 0 training. It's been really good to us. Right, that was part 2. Cheers.